Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Coming up tonight in news, are new COVID restrictions coming after huge crowds are spotted over the holiday weekend? Government extends NIB assistance by another month, plus Apostle Julian Johnson charged in the magistrate's court. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, health officials are monitoring what could be a further spike in COVID-19 cases following the holiday weekend where several large gatherings were spotted on camera. Health Minister Renward Wells insists Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis is not afraid to make tough decisions when it comes to COVID-19 restrictions. Jasmine Brown reports.
Now, Wells says health officials will crunch the data during a special meeting tomorrow morning, and they'll reveal the details during a press conference in the afternoon.
There is lots of concern among the health officials as to the increase in numbers, the increase in hospitalization. The Prime Minister, you would remember, said at the airport when we were receiving the vaccines from PAHO, you know, the media sort of put a little cliche in there, say the Prime Minister say, behave yourself. And he was saying that because in actual fact, he was asking the Bahamian people during the course of this holiday to exercise additional due diligence in regards to the health protocols.
However, Wells says based on the videos that circulated over the holidays, it's clear not everyone heeded the Prime Minister's advice. For that reason, health officials will keep a close eye on COVID numbers over the next 2 weeks.
There was lots of activity on lots and lots of activity. And so we're hoping that at the end of the day, what we saw does not inure to increasing numbers. In 14 days, there's the potential for greater numbers.
Wells says they are also concerned over a spike in COVID cases last month. When asked if the Ministry of Health has recommended that restrictions be tightened, Wells said this.
We're going to have to look at those measures, look at the health protocols. And obviously, you know, the Prime Minister is an individual who is never afraid to make hard choices and decisions. And so at the end of the day, we'll look at the data that we're seeing.
COVID cases nearly doubled in March, with 613 cases reported, according to Ministry of Health data. According to the COVID-19 dashboards, 336 cases were reported in January and 335 cases were reported in February. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
And with thousands still out of work, Minister of Public Service and National Insurance Brensel Roll says the government has extended its assistance program for another month. He revealed NIB and the government have already spent more than $250 million helping to keep out of work Bahamians afloat during the pandemic, and that figure is climbing.
We are hopeful that things will get better, and it's looking a little bit better. Government has expended over $150 million on this project so far, and it's roughly costing the government $12 to $15 million a month.
He adds that NIB has spent another $165 million on unemployment assistance.
So combined, we're talking about nearly $250 million to an assistance program to Bahamians during this pandemic.
In October, weekly unemployment payments were reduced from $150 to $100. Roll says the government may have to extend the program again if the current situation does not improve.
On a monthly basis, the Cabinet has been evaluating the process. As you know, the initial program was to end in December, but we have extended it so far up until April.
Well, a religious leader today taken before the courts to be charged in connection with a video making harsh allegations against the Commissioner of Police. Kyle Joaquin has more.
50-year-old Apostle Julian Johnson walked into the magistrate's court complex handcuffed and shackled free, wearing a navy blue suit and Tory Burch mask. This as he prepared to stand before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt. Johnson was arraigned on one count of intentional libel. Prosecutors allege that sometime in March, Johnson recorded himself on video, accusing Police Commissioner Paul Roll of sexually assaulting some female members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Prosecutors argue that he also posted it to his Facebook page. In court, the apostle pleaded not guilty. But when asked if there was an objection to bail, the prosecution asked that it be deferred, as she only received the file minutes before the arraignment. Johnson's attorney, Jomo Camel, argued that his client had no previous incidents on his record, walked into CDU by himself Tuesday morning at 9, and that a deferral of a bail decision would be a pre-trial punishment. The magistrate, taking into consideration the prosecution's wish to review the file, transferred the bail decision to Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes until Wednesday morning, as she has to travel for work. That means the apostle will be on remand until then. Meanwhile, 3 members of the cloth showed up to support Johnson, including singing Bishop Lawrence Rowe.
So we still is a body. Yeah. There still is the church. We wasn't called into selfishness, but selflessness. Yes, I don't see me. I see God.
At the end of the day, we are here for him. And so the court will decide as the direction that they want to go. But for us as pastors, at the end of the day, people don't say it's him, they attack the entire body.
Again, the apostle is back in court tomorrow morning, where a decision will be made regarding bail. For now, reporting from the Magistrates Court for Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, 2 men arrested in connection with a $3.1 million drug bust in Governor's Harbor, Eleuthera last week, appearing in court today. Bethany McDermott has the details.
Brandon Miller, seen in the tan jacket, along with Johnny Emile in the orange shirt, both pleaded not guilty to conspiracy to possess dangerous drugs with the intent to supply and conspiracy to import dangerous drugs. Prosecutors allege that sometime between March 22nd and 29th, the pair conspired to possess dangerous drugs, namely cocaine, with the intent to supply. Their arrest followed a $3.1 million drug bust on Governor's Harbor, Eleuthera on March 29th. The discovery came as a result of a joint operation between several law enforcement agencies. According to police, the team conducted a surveillance operation in the vicinity of Governor's Harbor's airstrip, which resulted in the discovery of 6 duffel bags in bushes. A further inspection of the bags revealed a white powdery substance suspected to be cocaine. In court today, Miller, who was represented by attorney Jomo Camel, was also slapped with 1 count of possession of dangerous drugs with the intent to supply and 1 count of importation of dangerous drugs. It is alleged that on March 29th, while at Governor's Harbor, Eleuthera, and being concerned with another, the 28-year-old was found with a quantity of suspected cocaine and did import the drugs into the Bahamas. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. Miller was granted $10,000 bail with 2 sureties. But it was a different case for Emile, who has a previous drug-related conviction dating back to 2019. His attorney, Tamara Taylor Storr, requested to make an application for bail, which Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes said will be heard on April 12th. Both men will return to court on September 1st for trial. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
A man who was shot and killed while playing dominoes was a non-violent person who wasn't ever involved with gangs, according to the victim's brother, who admits his brother had some challenges. Jared Higgs tells us more.
I break down when I see him get shoot.
The man who was killed while playing dominoes on Easter Sunday is 51-year-old Anthony Tyrone Roll, according to his emotional brother.
I picked up 6 shots before. I ain't gonna see him no more. I try to see my other brothers, I can't see him.
On Sunday, Roll was playing dominoes under a tree on Nassau Street, a popular spot for him and others in the area. But in the middle of a game, police say a man known to him walked up and shot him in the abdomen.
My brother was in a lot of pain, all right? So I just tell him, don't talk much. Just keep your eye open and stay weak.
Our News spoke with Roll's grieving brother, 49-year-old Derek Roll, by the same domino table where he was killed. He says he arrived at the scene of the shooting just moments after it happened and spoke with his brother before he was taken away by paramedics.
After 5 hours, he succumbed to his injuries.
His brother doesn't think he deserved to die the way he did.
My brother was humble. My brother was a kind, loving person.
And while the 49-year-old paints his brother as an affable person, he also acknowledges that he had his personal issues and struggles over the course of his life.
Everyone have their habits, but my brother was humble. And those who do know my brother was a no violent type fella. He was never a fighting type fella, never was a gang type fella, and he was never a gang member. Honest.
Roll's killing was the 31st homicide for 2021, according to Our News records. His brother says despite the tragic event, they aren't abandoning their domino spot, where he also sells fruit. He says it will be a constant reminder of his older brother, though. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, we saw a beautiful sunny day in the capital. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christina. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first look at weather. Beautiful conditions around the islands today. Lots of sunshine across the northwest and central Bahamas. 72 degrees outside our studios with just a few clouds. East-northeast winds at 5 knots. Those winds will fall off light and rebel tonight. And your field slight temperature in the low 70s. Satellite view around the area, sunny across the entire chain of islands, exception being the extreme southeastern islands, where some moisture associated with an old frontal boundary backing up towards the north, so a couple of clouds and some showers expected down there. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come, the World Bank predicts a 2% GDP recovery for the Bahamas in 2021. Plus, more than 10,000 people have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. The details after this.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Political parties jumping into full campaign mode, with the Progressive Liberal Party holding a constituency office opening in Elizabeth last evening. Kyle Joaquin has more.
The incoming Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Bahamas, the Honorable David.
Call it a sign of the times. Constituency headquarters now being opened with major events as election season gets into full swing. PLP leader Philip Davis urging Bahamians to vote the FNM out of office, as he says the country cannot afford another term under the Minnis administration, pointing to the multiple promises made on the 2017 campaign trail.
You know the Minnis I'm talking about, right? Yeah. The Minnis who promised this transparency and accountability. The Minnis who said he put in place a fixed election day. The Minnis who said he was for the poor. Remember him? Well, he's back.
The PLP suffered a crushing defeat in 2017, winning just 4 seats. Davis said though some have compared the PLP to the classic nursery rhyme Humpty Dumpty and a doomed ship, the party is back on course.
Where you are now, that ship is off that reef. The hull has been repaired, and we are now seaworthy again. And guess what? We are on the sea towards that port of victory. And I can tell you, because I am captaining that ship,
Davis, scanning the audience, pointed to some of the bigger names in the PLP present at the event and aimed to show a sign of unity.
Get us out of Martin. Harold. And she don't take no prisoners. And we have on that ship. Let's be
The past 2 weeks have seen an increased level of campaign activity by all the major parties as political observers predict an early election. Davis says the PLP will be ready either way. And while at the opening of her constituency office, the PLP's candidate for Elizabeth, JoBeth Colby Davis, said she's ready for the fight and looks to bring the area back into the PLP's win column.
Show up and mark your X next to JoBeth Colby Davis in Elizabeth. Now we have many other candidates out here, so if you're in other constituencies, just vote for the PLP side. If you don't know your candidate name, mark your X for the PLP.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, with more than 50% of the Bahamian labor force employed in tourism, unemployment in the country is on the rise, particularly affecting the most vulnerable, according to a World Bank report. The report, Renewing with Growth, examines historical data, estimates, and forecasts of the gross domestic product of countries in Latin America and the Caribbean between 2018 and 2023. In 2018, the Bahamas experienced 3% growth, followed by 1.2% growth in 2019. 2019. The World Bank estimates that the Bahamas GDP contracted by 16.2% in 2020. In 2021, a World Bank forecast predicts the Bahamas will experience recovery at a rate of 2%. Poverty is expected to rise well above 13%, according to the World Bank. And Health Minister Renward Wells says there is still no evidence that any of the COVID-19 variants are in the Bahamas.
We would have gotten back the results from our lab in Brazil, the Paro lab. Of the 55 samples we sent, I think 30 of them were still viable to be tested. We tested all 30, and none of those showed that we had a new variant. It's just the old COVID strain, the initial strain that we have in country.
Wells says the Ministry of Health is now sending samples to a lab in Trinidad for a quicker turnaround time on genomic sequencing. More than 10,000 people have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Wells says the government is trying to increase rollout speed in an effort to meet demand for the vaccines.
We have in hand the solution for what ails us. That is the vaccine.
In other news, 23-year-old Zensil Roll in the blue shirt and 19-year-old Daquante Brown in the black and gray shirt were arraigned before Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes today on 2 separate murder charges. Roll is accused of causing the March 27th death of Charles Williams. The victim was found lying on the ground with an apparent gunshot wound on Gibbs Corner. Meanwhile, Brown is accused of the March 25th murder of Cario Duncombe, who was shot as he was walking along Dorset Street in Fox Hill. Roll and Brown were not required to enter a plea and bail was denied. They were both remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections and will return to court on May 28th. There's more news coming up, but first, your RF Market Watch.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
Still to come, Alfred Sears shares his political goals and catching up with Coach Yo. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. Despite losing his leadership bid during the Progressive Liberal Party convention in 2016, PLP candidate for Fort Charlotte, Alfred Sears, says God isn't finished with him yet. Berthany McDermott has more.
After losing his seat in the 2017 general election and a bid for party leader in 2016, former cabinet minister Alfred Sears is hopeful that one day he will be leader of the PLP or even prime minister.
This is not the time to be talking about leadership because we're not in a convention. But of course, I still have the interest to serve the party, and I don't think God finished with me yet, man, okay?
During the PLP convention in November 2016, Sears boldly threw his hat in the ring for party leader, but was defeated by former Prime Minister Perry Christie. Despite this, Sears said he is still committed to the PLP's philosophy.
The party is a democratic organization, and I am committed to the philosophy of the party. And like any human construct, it's not perfect, but it is the engine of social economic
transformation.
Sears is again vying for the Fort Charlotte constituency. During the 2017 general election, Sears lost to political newcomer Mark Humes by 537 votes. He says he sees this as his opportunity to pass on the generosity that was given to him as a child.
I am the beneficiary of so much generosity in this society. I come from the bottom. From the time I was in the Boys Industrial School, people intervened. They weren't related to me that I knew of, but they believed that this boy had something that needed to be developed. This is my opportunity now, today, to pass it forward.
The former Attorney General and Education Minister added that he has served the country with integrity and has the experience to get the job done. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Tonight in sports, the latest on the country's NBA stars. Marcellus Hall has the rundown.
All right, thanks, Christina. Welcome to our sports on a Tuesday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Special thanks once again going out to Insurance Management for giving us the opportunity to head on over to Miami to watch Jazz Chisholm making his debut against the Tampa Bay Rays. Meanwhile, let's get back to what's going on as far as sports is concerned. DeAndre Ayton and his Phoenix Suns, they've been remarkably good this season, looking to continue their trend last night. Let's take a look and see exactly how they did. DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns continuing their great play as of late. Last night on the road taking on the Houston Rockets. Ayton with a fantastic evening, played 33 minutes, finished up with 27 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Most importantly, Suns pick up their 6th win in a row, 133-130. The win now puts Phoenix record at 35-14, still second in the Western Conference. They play the Western Conference leaders, the Utah Jazz, on Wednesday. As for Buddy Hield, he and the Kings taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. Hield logging 32 minutes. He would shoot 6 of 17 from the floor, finished up with 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. That came in a losing effort as the Timberwolves get the win 116-106. Kings now well below 500. They have a 22-29 record. They will host the Detroit Pistons on Thursday. And Bahamian Division I coach Olette McPhee-McEwen back home briefly to visit family in Grand Bahama. The Ole Miss Lady Rebels coach paying visit to the Hoyts basketball program at the Gladstone Moon McPhee Park, named in honor of her dad, who was also in attendance. Both took the opportunity to address the students. And that's your check on sports here on this Tuesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Marcellus. Raising funds to get more shots in arms. The details when Our News returns.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to Our News. It looks like sunny and pleasant conditions ahead. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the details.
Thanks again, Christina, and a happy Tuesday evening, everybody. After a beautiful weekend, holiday Easter weekend, lovely conditions around the islands, a front boundary that moves through us now down near the Hispaniola and Puerto Rico area. High pressure remains in charge of our weather, generating some beautiful skies and some warmer temperatures. The winds are starting to die off across the southeast Bahamas. Some of that moisture associated with that front boundary down in the south starting to back up. So some cloudy conditions expected across that area throughout the rest of the evening and tomorrow. Your boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the northeast to east, 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean. Your low tide will be at 10:59 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Sunday.
Well, the World Health Organization is pushing manufacturers to boost COVID-19 vaccine equity through a new campaign. At the start of the year, the body called on countries to begin vaccinating healthcare workers and older populations in the first 100 days of 2021. Well, that milestone comes up this week, but the WHO Director General says the push will continue.
WHO will continue to call on governments to share vaccine doses and fill the $22.1 billion gap in the ACT Accelerator for the equitable distribution of vaccines, rapid tests, and therapeutics.
COVAX has delivered 36 million doses of vaccine to 86 countries, but the WHO is looking for manufacturers to increase vaccine production through a new fundraising campaign.
Developed by the WHO Foundation and a range of partners, the campaign will enable individuals and companies to get one, give one, and close the overall COVID-19 vaccine gap.
The WHO marks World Health Day tomorrow. Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.